Hello, everyone, and welcome to Orange and Brew, the podcast where we made our two favorite pastimes, the Denver Broncos and beer. I am one of your hosts, JT Matthews, at JTMatthews01 on Twitter. I am here with the doctor, Nicholas Manning, Dr_in Manning on Twitter, and our other host and super producer, John Cronenberg, at Jon Kay NFL on Twitter. Boys, how are we doing today? It is a good day because the Nuggets are 2-1. They're 2 wins away from winning their first ever title. And I think it's going to happen. So I'm just going to lead with that.
It's going to happen. I said Nuggets in 5. I'm right till I'm not right. And currently, I'm still right.
We're still right. I think that's true.
Yeah, I forget if I said Nuggets in 5 or 6, but I went to the watch party yesterday at Ball Arena. It was pretty electric. All the people there got 18,550 in there. So it was crowded. I actually ran into my optometrist.
Nice.
That was a random fact. Who would have thought that?
Who knew?
So it was everyone was there, including your eye doctor.
Yeah, the world's going. The town is going crazy for the Nuggets for good reason.
Yeah,
and
let's say hi real quick to who's joining us. We got one of a guy that I'm close with, Orange Crush 512. Love it, Buckham. Let's ride. How you doing? We got Yordi Lopez, another guy who I love to ride with. Well. We're going to be talking plenty of things that I know you're interested in, Yordi. So can't wait to get your opinion. And just really excited to get going here. So why don't you lead us off here, JT?
Wait, I'm not done talking about the Nuggets.
Okay, keep going. Sorry,
I cut you off. Hurry me off of this topic. I am bullish right now. We saw history last night. And I think it needs to be acknowledged because we've seen a lot of NBA history just because me and Nick are old guys, specifically older guys. We've seen a lot of games. We've seen a lot of history, but it's different when it's your team and it's exciting. And so we got 2 30-point triple doubles for the first time and the first time in the finals with Jamal and Jokic going off yesterday. And it was, I couldn't be happier. I'm elated today. And I have to keep talking to everyone about it because we're the best in the world right now and it feels good.
Yeah. It's, this isn't even a team that's used to almost getting there.
No.
They kind of almost got there. And to do it in the route that they did, and I know people are taking shots at the seeding, and they didn't play. Oh, you can miss me with that. The Lakers have an all-time great that legitimately is in the GOAT conversation. Someone must put in there, but it's enough traction that people get it. AD, I think, has been voted like top 70, 75 of all time, and that guy's good at basketball, and so that pair in general is tough. See what they did to the Warriors. So to be able to go through the Lakers, who have been the reason why the Nuggets haven't made it to the finals in each of their previous opportunities, makes it pretty special. And then to bounce back from letting one get away. I think we can be clear that they should have won game 2. They gave it away. They gave the refs an opportunity to impact the game because they didn't play well. And then to respond in the way that they did was phenomenal. And then when you're, the team that you're rooting for ever since you were a little kid, they do something while you're watching that no one in the history of NBA basketball has ever done. It's pretty sweet. And to do it on the biggest stage, for the first, their first run at it is just, it's surreal. So I'm excited. It's like I'm confident excited. Normally you get like nervous excited, like what if? Nope. I haven't been worried. I ain't worried. And I will see everyone at the parade.
Yes, I will be at the parade for sure. All right, John, I'm ready to transition now.
All right. We got some Broncos news. Frank Clark was signed by the Broncos. Just initial, without talking about money or anything like that, what were your guys' thoughts?
Doc, you hit me. You hit it up first.
Yeah. All right. Let's we'll backtrack. One, to be frank, Frank Clark had some issues throughout his time, especially at Michigan and as a younger player, that I found extremely concerning. Domestic violence stuff, things like that. That I, not a fan of. And I do believe that people can right their wrongs, right? They can choose a different path. They don't have to be their mistakes. They can learn from them, be an advocate for change, all that good stuff. So maybe, however, I do think that he's currently on probation or for gun charges and all that kind of stuff. So, people will do what they do. As a football player, I think Frank Clark, and probably what makes him, hit or miss as a person in the community, probably makes him a really good football player. Dude has edge and is a bigger body playing outside. Really, Randy Gregory is the only edge with real size. I think really Cooper and Browning and Benito, those are all pretty light guys to be able to hold up, especially set a heavy edge. So it makes sense. The deal itself is interesting. So 1-year deal, always a fan of, especially if you're taking a waiver on it. You don't get suckered into a second year and lose some guaranteed money that way. But it's a lot of guaranteed money up front. So 5.5 million in reachable incentives. So probably games played, minimal sack numbers, all that kind of stuff. And then there's another $1 million that could be team success if the team makes the AFC Championship, playoffs, blah, blah, blah. All those things that are really out of some of his control. But it might be Pro Bowls, all that kind of stuff. So to me, it's a lot for a guy who hasn't really been elite. He shows up in big games, so I'll give that to him. He's been really good in the playoffs. I think he's like third all time in like postseason sacks, something pretty impressive like that. So the move makes sense. I think adding some more competition and depth outside was important. The ability maybe to go a 4-man front is great. I know that he moved around a little bit previously in Seattle. So we'll see, that kind of fit. I think it gives you some options. You can play a couple guys stand up, you can be multiple. So we'll see on the fit, but it's also a guy who's played for winning programs in the NFL for a long time. Pete Carroll, Andy Reid, and now Sean Payton. So it's a guy that expects to win, knows how to win. And then also he's coming from your division rival that you're trying to catch. That part can't hurt. So, maybe there's some intel there.
I feel like you're a little lukewarm on it, though. Like, you're not excited.
I'm not hot on it. I'm not excited about it.
Okay.
I think the room is better than it was. Maybe if that's your 3-man rotation or with Cooper, I think, we talked about it before. What does that mean for Benito? I don't know. I don't know. So,
yeah.
I also think, maybe, with a guy like Drew Sanders, maybe that really is going to limit him outside now too. So, maybe Browning gets used more in that multiple role and move him around a bit instead of maybe having him be an edge. So there's going to be a lot there. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out. I'm not a huge Frank Clark fan.
Sure.
I think he disappears a lot. I think he really should have been able to feast opposite Chris Jones, and he came up big in big games in the playoffs. But through the regular season, I'd have to watch a little bit more. Maybe his impact is a little bit more subtle, and really maybe look at some of the run grades and the run fits that he's had. So I'm in favor of the room being better. I think there's a lot of guaranteed money for him right now. And I also think it really maybe negatively impacts some of the younger players in that rotation.
Gotcha. John, how do you feel about him?
Well, I think Yordi brings up a good point. So, again, let us know in the chat if you're in here with us, your thoughts on Frank Clark being added here. Does he fit with the roster? Does he fit with this team right now? And essentially your thoughts on the deal. And maybe some other guys that you would have had over Frank Clark. That would be really interesting. But again, this being the first time that Frank Clark is in a 3-4 base, I think that's something that's going to be interesting. I think, again, when we were talking about the Frank Clark deal, the $5.5 million guaranteed is quite a bit. But I don't think, again, he has $1 million that is essentially a very very high incentive. They're not expecting it to really take effect. It's just there in case of, again, it sounds like it would take an injury, something kind of a big impact where Frank Clark would have to come in and step up and be that guy and be able to produce Pro Bowl numbers and Pro Bowl statistics. And I just don't think, hopefully we're not getting to that point, even though we saw Baron Browning has some injuries with his knee right now being worked on. I still don't see, that being an issue long term. So for me, this is all about setting up your depth well. We've seen issues with Gregory in the past. We've seen issues again with Browning in the past. So this is for me a depth piece. I'm trying to let go of what happened with Frank Clark in the past, to be honest, because that is an issue with me where that's what I remember initially, but I also remember it more because he was a Kansas City Chief. If he were on a different team, I probably would have let that go. Again, a giant, just somewhere where it's somewhere kind of out of sight, out of mind. Yeah. It probably would have left me a little bit more soon. So I do like this move when it comes to the price tag and it being a 1-year deal, and he can get those $2 million extra if he proves it. Otherwise, he'll be able to earn that money. And again, looking forward to getting some sacks though and some real production there. What about yourself, JT?
Well, maybe I could just to add some context, like objective, just pulling up PFF's numbers. Essentially, he's been kind of an overall graded like 63 to 65 guy over the last, I just did like 4 seasons, about averaging like 6 sacks. He's only playing about 500 to 600 snaps, mostly on pass rush downs. So, maybe there's more of a rotation in mind with that. So just something objective, me moving away again from kind of previous Frank Clark takes.
Yeah. Am I getting some echo? Can you hear
I don't hear it. You're good now.
Good. I think I'm probably higher on the move than both of you, it sounds like.
Okay.
I just thought the room needed another body. And I think if you can get someone that I think I see him as more of a rotational piece. I think he can be used. He may be used more frequently if injuries occur. It's probably the plan is like, let's get someone in here that we can plug in. That's not, you're not going to lose a lot of production from someone who has some experience, a lot of snaps in the league. You're not scrambling, after the season starts to find that person to fill that void. The money's what it is. I think you're going to pay that for, I won't say a top end pass rusher, but a competent pass rusher in this league. It's a position that gets paid. It just is, someone will pay him. If we weren't going to pay him, someone else is going to pay him at some point. I like it. And I like that he historically, I think he,
Michigan.
No, I don't like that.
Oh, okay. Just checking.
That's the part I don't like. I like that he creates turnovers. I think he's got double-digit forced fumbles in his career. That's something that we haven't had a lot of, unfortunately. At least not to the extent that I would have liked us to have. And so I think the addition is nice. I think it's another body, and I think, you go into camp feeling a lot better about that room, or at least I do.
Yeah, I feel better about it. Again, I feel better about the room. I think with your perspective in mind, he is a better player than what we think Chris Allen is at this current moment. Who knows who he might be, but is he better than that? Is he better than Jonathan Cooper? Yeah, probably. Right now I think his production would warrant some of that. So I also think it offsets some of what Bradley Chubb gave you. Again, I think just some of the ability really to give you, it's like a baseball term, right? Like professional snaps. Like he's going to go in, he's not going to get blown up. He's going to make smart plays. Mostly, it's some of those things, that the reliability of having a pro who knows what success looks like. And, he can contribute if he's getting 6 sacks a year. That would have been what, second on the team last year. And We haven't really had a lot of guys that really can come in and do that thing lately. So, it adds to the pool. So I don't hate it in terms of them addressing a different position. He's not an elite pass rusher. He's not an elite run defender, but he's adequate at both. I think he's fairly, and I think he got compensated well enough. I think maybe I would have went a little bit less on the guarantees and maybe more in incentives, but he's a Bronco now, and so I think looking at it with a positive foot forward, I think it adds to the room and some diversity to the room because he's not a speed rusher. He's not Baron Browning. Baron Browning is a different player, so I think that they provide different things which will complement, and I think that will be great. He's used to putting his hand in the dirt, so you can run games and those kind of things with a stand-up edge. Maybe that's one of the lighter guys. So I think there's some things to be able to do. So we'll see. I would agree with Yordi. I would have liked either of those guys, Ngakoue or Leonard Floyd. Leonard Floyd, especially if you're going to really run a lot of stand-up with your edge.
Yeah.
I think Yannick has been more productive over the last few seasons. I think he had 9.5 sacks.
And he's been very cheap as well. I mean, it's just been one of those things after the Raiders and the Colts. He just never caught on with the team, for beyond a year. It always felt like 1-year deals. And I felt like the Broncos could have done the same thing, a 1-year deal, but this would have definitely been under $5 million, in my opinion. I think you're talking, $1 million in guarantees. We're really talking different amount of money. And, even going someone different, in coming from Kansas City and Justin Houston, someone who can make that, set the edge and keep those run defenders in there. And he did fine with the Colts, I believe, last year. So that's definitely another name to have in there. I want to say real quickly hi to Jolene. I appreciate the love for the hats. I like the 66 hat. That's kind of one of my favorite era. And we got some love for both of your hats as well. Of course,
I think it was more of a mocking, but that's all right.
Yeah. I mean, it's
a logo. It's like just chill vibes.
What does it say?
Colorado.
Good vibes.
Chill vibes.
Chill vibes. Okay, that's good to have on a hat, though. You want that on your mind.
Trust me, parent to four. Literally, you really need it.
Let's move on to the next piece of news, which could impact the Broncos. The doc certainly hopes that it does. It sounds as though Dalvin Cook will be released by the Vikings, making him free to pursue. And the two teams I think that I'm hearing most closely associated with Dalvin Cook are the Broncos and the Dolphins. I have mixed feelings about it, right? I guess without knowing Javante's health status, I can't get too into it, but I will say that I don't know how much adding Dalvin Cook. I think that it helps this year. I don't know what it does for the production and value of Javonte Williams. And I just wonder what that impact will be. So I want to hear what you guys think about that, at least from that perspective, but also just kind of your overall feelings. Doc, why don't, since this is your passion, your dream scenario, I'm gonna let you take the lead on that one.
So which thing am I answering first, or am I just
go?
I just put it out there. I said this is my concern, but also sell me on it.
Yeah, I think the concern is, I think you have Javonte Williams and Samaje Perine, and if they are healthy and together, I think that they are a more than capable duo. I have said it before. I'll say it again. I don't know that Javonte is or should be available early in the season. I just, from like a personal perspective, like that was a rough injury. I was there. I was in Vegas. He was down a long time. You get carted off. It's never good. Unless you're Paul Pierce, and then you're probably fine. But I do think Dalvin Cook is a good player. And I don't think a team like this, who hasn't won in a while, should be scared of adding good players. So a 1-year deal, with maybe a team option or an opportunity to bring him back. Because remember, Javonte is going to be on his final year next year. So you're probably only going to get half of a year from him and then next year. And so is that a position that you're going to pay a lot for moving forward? I don't think so. And so I do think getting a guy like Dalvin, because of injuries and variability at that position, for a team that we need playmakers. They were piss poor on offense, lack of a better term, over the last 6 years. And so this is a good opportunity for them to, unload the artillery and say, hey, you know what, we are committed to putting a really good offensive unit out there. And Sean Payton has reasonably ran out, 3 good running backs with different roles, with different responsibilities. So I think it would be smart. I really do, especially if he's released. I think that you can negotiate. Miami, I think, they have a lot of guys there too. And then he's going to go be a part of a 3-headed group there. I think most of us, I don't know about you, I would rather give carries to Dalvin Cook than Samaje Perine. If that's the case, I know Samaje came here for a reason, but if you have an opportunity to upgrade at that position, this league that's what they're doing all the time. So I would be for it, especially to make sure that he doesn't go play for someone in the division. That'd be dope. Yeah. And or, someone in the conference. I think most of the teams that might make a play for him are going to be in competition with the Broncos for postseason efforts. So when in doubt, stack the roster.
I just, sorry, John, I'll get your opinion here too. Yeah. I just want to make the only counter argument I have is that you've invested a lot of draft capital into a running back. And I don't know that you will ever see it if you add a guy like Dalvin and plan on, splitting carries probably more evenly than you definitely were going to with Perine at some point, that you're ever going to see the fruition of that. You know what I mean? And so you've got to be willing, the front office has to be willing to say, we took a shot on Javonte. He may never hit his prime here. Are we okay with that? Or do we, hope that in his last season under contract that he blows up and then do we pay him? Do we let him go? We're kind of in an in-between ground. So that would be my only counter. I do like Cook as a player. I think he would be a good addition to the roster. But I do wonder if maybe we are kneecapping Javonte a little bit by adding a talented running back to this roster. John, you have any thoughts about that?
Yeah, I mean, my initial thoughts were with Dalvin Cook were, only if Javonte Williams wasn't healthy. So I agree to kind of Yordi's point. With bringing in Cook, you can let Javonte Williams truly get healthy, and you're not handicapping yourself in any way with either two of the running backs. So I think that's something that's very positive. Of course, there's some good depth pieces with the Broncos, but none of them really set my world on fire where I feel like I can trust that person to take the number 2 load if necessary, if Williams does go down. So that's where, of course, Cook comes in and makes a good fit. And I agree, Cook doesn't really, it's one of those things where I don't really worry about limiting Williams, honestly. Like Doc was saying, he's got 2 years left. I would expect Dalvin Cook to either want a 1-year deal or a 2-year deal with an option, something along those lines. And I think it'll be a pretty fair deal, $6.5 million with incentives based in there. So it would be based on, play and performance. And I don't think he can get any better of a deal anywhere else where he can also still get the amount of carries he wants, get the amount of receptions he wants. I think that's a big thing. And Yordi, again, getting to the point of in Miami, that is a filled room. Right. And there's a lot of guys that are very similar to what he does. So, does he care about that enough? So that's one thing I think about when it comes to Dalvin. And for me, I just feel like that this system is going to fit him well, and he's going to want to come play for Sean Payton, honestly. Who wouldn't?
Yeah. No, I agree. I think
let me interrupt you.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Sean Payton didn't draft Javonte Williams.
That's true.
So
That's
when
fair.
we look at the draft capital,
that. Go ahead.
It wasn't his, and we've seen it with how he's already started to shape this roster and the culture he's developing. It's Sean Payton's. It's not George Payton's. It's not Elway's. It's not Vic Fangio's. It's not any of those guys. So I think if he has a beat on it, there's a reason why Denver makes sense for most people, especially people outside of the media market. And even though we haven't heard some of these things, we didn't hear about Frank Clark either. I think Tim brings up a really good part.
That's very valid.
I think he was a part of the group that gave him an extension, if I do recall. So there's a relationship there already. This is a place where, and to be honest, I wouldn't care about Dalvin's feelings either. So if he comes in and he's kind of productive,
if he was like a Jamal Charles. If he has that kind of production, I'm fine letting him ride the bench.
Yep. Yeah. In the end, it's best man win. And that's what I think about that group is we saw what happened last year. We thought we were steady with Melvin and Javonte, and then Javonte gets hurt. Melvin forgets how to play. And then you have no one really, right? Like you think you got some guys, but not really until they found Latavius Murray with 5 weeks to go. Like you just can't be in that position again. And so you bring in Dalvin, you bring him on, a 1 year deal with minimal guarantees, maybe into the second, and you say, hey, we're gonna split. He's been a part of a split with Madison, with a variety of guys. So I don't think Dalvin is a guy that needs 300 carries either. So and if they're going to run the ball as much as we think they're, I think there's enough to go around, especially for both of those guys who can catch the ball in the backfield.
I think if they bring him on, it'll be telling to where Javonte is in his recuperation too. Yeah. I think if they feel like they have to bring another guy on, then they don't feel like he's going to be ready. And I think, at that point, then you just got to make the move that you got to make.
But I don't know if I agree with that just based on what they've done so far. So they have cut, 2 running backs or 3 running backs over the last couple of weeks and haven't brought in any more.
Yeah.
So I don't know that they feel that bad about Javonte. So to me, it's probably like you get a good player at the right price. And if you're a guy like Sean Payton who can run multiple, formations and personnel groupings, he's a really good receiver too. And it's an opportunity if you can get mismatches on linebackers with a guy like that. So I just think it's something that really could be beneficial, even if Javonte is ready to go. I just think that there's enough to go around, and there's going to be some games where I really think you're going to have to win in a slugfest. Really good defenses, that kind of stuff. And so, have a hot hand. It might not always be Javonte. He's had a history of not being effective sometimes outside of some big runs in some games. So I think it gives you an opportunity to have a hot hand. I don't know that Samaje Perine is a guy that you want to count on for all that. It would be great. Plus, Florida State fan.
There you go.
It would be phenomenal.
The truth comes out.
So that makes sense why he would come to Colorado. Florida State guy, then coming to Colorado. It just makes perfect sense.
It would. It would. But I think football wise, it makes sense, especially because I don't think Russ is going to throw the ball 35 times a game, which means you're going to have just more opportunities for more running attempts. So, why not let both guys eat?
Is this a concern for you, JT, at all?
I mean, not really, not in a rotation. I think it's always going to be a concern. Like, I don't worry about bringing Dalvin on just because I think that Javonte eventually will be back to full speed. And so if one goes down, then the other just takes the load over. And I like the upside of Cook. So again, I'm not necessarily opposed to it, but I do wonder if it does impact Javonte's production or at least his ceiling of production with the Broncos. But it's something that we'll have to kind of gauge as we get closer to camp and as we see Javonte out there and kind of what he looks like. We've talked a lot about that, the injury that he sustained and how and I said on last pad, I worried about it potentially affecting his burst. It's not his biggest trait as a running back, and for him to lose any bit of that is a little bit concerning for me. Yeah. So I just think there's a lot to that remains to be seen. I'm not opposed to adding good football players to this team, though, and I think that's what Sean Payton's doing, and I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I mean, just kind of going in with what everyone else is saying here. I agree that there's versatility with each one of these guys that can bring different aspects, and yet they also have some similarities that can keep you in similar situations, not having to change plays essentially, which just really makes it better for your offense to run smoothly. And let's get to Jolene's comment. Haven't seen her get in here. I still like the crew that Denver currently has for running backs: Javonte, P. Ryan, McLaughlin, Jones, Batty. They spent a lot of money on P. Ryan and Jones. No way they hold more than 3 running backs on the active roster. Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be interesting, when it comes to the practice squad, how the Broncos are going to go ahead and decide to run this team. Like we saw last year, Batty had a good game to finish out the season, and one of the final good things going on. So I'm in agreement that there's a lot of good names here, and you're going to have to bring some on the practice squad to just have on your special teams and bring in a different burst, if you want to. So definitely agree with you there, Jolene.
At the end of the day, having talent on the roster is not a bad thing, though it does make those cuts more painful. Someone can benefit from. And we see it so often, guys get cut and the other teams pick them up, and then they go to have nice careers, or at least semi-productive careers. And so I think, that's a risk with this running back group, because I do think you have some talented bodies in there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a risk for everything. So it depends on, are they trying to win today, or are they trying to win in general? And, and I think, Samaje did sign a pretty nice deal. So account $3 million against the cap. And then Javonte's right behind him at 2.4. Tony Jones is not necessarily given enough money that if he wasn't on the roster, that it would be a big issue. So just to be able to have that be of note. And I think all the other guys, you can probably, move them to the practice squad. And who knows, maybe you do that with the idea that Dalvin doesn't have a lot in the tank, and or you're only doing it for this year, and you keep the younger guys on the practice squad, and you start shuffling them in as the year goes on. There's just going to be attrition, I have no doubt, in that room. And so you're kind of banking on having a lead guy, having P. Ryan as your secondary guy, and then you mix and match with some of the younger guys with you can call them up from the practice squad, all that kind of stuff. So maybe unless one of them has really impacted the special teams game, as a returner and that kind of stuff, I think really fortifying that room would be all right. However, I would rather them go get Ben Jones.
And thanks to Nick, I'm going to probably mess up the last name, but Schleich for our like. So if you are watching on YouTube, go ahead and throw us a like. We'd appreciate that. That helps us win the algorithm, which I don't really know what that means, but I know that it's a thing. So we appreciate you. John, were you going to say something?
No, I was just going to say real quick, I agree with you, Crush. I think we've talked about this a few times. Hunt, Dalvin over Hunt is a easy choice. Again, sometimes I can't separate what's been done in the past, and I need to get better at that. But it's hard to when you see some video footage.
Nah, don't get better at it. Hold it against them.
Hold it in.
But
as a Florida State guy, I don't know that Dalvin has the best character either.
It's fair enough.
I don't know. I mean, he's not made some good decisions in the past, and at least from what I know, I don't think Kareem has made any big issues since the big one. So, and if it's a team that just signed Frank Clark, I don't necessarily know that's something keeping them from adding talented players.
For sure. Well, let's transition, because I'm thirsty and it's beer time.
Let's go.
Frank the Tank leading us in to beer time. The Doc and I are going to be crushing another great Divide beer. This one It's just called a hazy IPA. I don't never know which way to turn this. From Great Divide. I like the art. I think there's a little Roadrunner on there. I don't know if that's a nod to Metro or something like that. Metro State.
That's clever.
But I think that's probably what that is. And it's not too far from Great Divide down in Denver. So I'm guessing that might be it. But I'm excited to drink some more Great Divide beer. Hazy IPA, 6.2 ABV. I don't know that there's much else to say to it. Then it better be a hazy IPA and it better be good.
40 IBU. So
that's kind of on the low end for an IPA.
Yeah, for an IPA, yeah, I think so too. I mean, I should say running back Cam for sure.
Yeah.
I'd hold up about 6
minutes. You got the height for it at the very least.
Yeah, that's true. I got the build. The speed, the long speed, not there anymore. But I can get 10 yards.
We don't need that always. Long speed. You just got
4 yards. That's all we need every play.
Yeah, exactly. Cloud of dust. That's me.
All right, you ready to pop this baby open?
I'm ready.
All right. Here's the crack. 3, 2, 1. Oh yeah.
That was.
Sounds good. John, you drinking anything? I know not booze, but
no, I just got some water. Nothing with me. No whiskey. Sorry, guys.
It's okay. It's not an indictment on you.
Yeah, Tim knows what's up. We got some beer out there in San Diego.
Wait, tell me what's the San Diego Zoo beer?
We went to the zoo together. Our kids met up at the San Diego Zoo.
Oh.
Yeah, you just both happen to be vacationing.
Yeah, I had to get a beer.
What beer did you get? Do you remember? Was it a local?
Yeah.
That's good.
It's good. No, nothing like a 10:30 a.m. beer.
Hey, when college season is on, I don't shy away from that at all. So
when you're on vacation,
it's just at the zoo, can you take the aroma and all that going on at the same time?
It improves the aroma, actually.
It makes it manageable.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's you guys.
Doc's impression of the hazy IPA.
It's good. I left it out for a little bit, so it's not as cold as I would have liked it. But it delivers. It's a strong enough taste to hang around for a little bit, but not overly, not over the top.
Yeah,
I give it a solid dub. Not necessarily something like special.
Yeah. I kind of feel the same way. It's a middling IPA. It gets the job done. It's a little malty. That's twice in a row we've had a little bit malty IPAs, and it's got a pretty heavy feel to it. But I don't know if I'd get it. It wouldn't be my go-to. But pull it out of the cooler on game day. I'm not gonna not drink it.
Yeah,
that's for most beers, honestly.
Yeah, for sure.
For being real, I'm not gonna not drink it. But this passes the eye test at the very least. And it's Great Divide. I love Great Divide, so I'm gonna push Great Divide on all of you while I can, while I have the opportunity. So I'll give it a small dub. It didn't blow me away, but it does what it says it's gonna do. And
that's right.
All right, we got a perfect beer time question.
Okay,
let's bring it up here with Orange Crush, my man. All right, fellas, which 5 current Broncos are you picking for your family feud to take on the rest of the NFL? So these guys have to have broad knowledge, but also can't be afraid to go there with family feud. You know that.
Yeah. Okay. Let's do this. Can we collaborate on this?
We can.
That's good.
I think first that popped into my head. I had 2 that popped in immediately, and you can feel free to veto either. I had Josie Jewell in there. He plays with instinct. I think he's a guy that relies on his intelligence and game planning to be in the right place, because I don't think he's overly athletic, and so he popped in my head. And Justin Simmons is a good combination.
That was the one who came
of headiness and athleticism to me. So those were my first 2 go-to guys.
And I feel like with Justin Simmons, like he knows odd stuff that's, like anime and other, I'm not saying like odd, but he knows video game culture, a lot of different other things besides, just sports culture. So that makes me really want to go with Simmons. I think another person that would be good is honestly Bowles. I think he's someone who also is someone who, kind of gets out there, does different things, isn't someone who's, going to be hesitant to say one of those, when on Family where they ask you a question that someone doesn't want to say it. So he'll say those ones. So I think we got 3 solid guys right here, right now.
I think Quinn Miners. would be another one of those guys.
Yeah.
You think? He's just from the tundra. And so JR, what's up? So he was not a go-to for me. I'll just say that.
I don't know that I'd say go-to, but I think if we were looking for gentlemen, I might say something that
it has a nice southern,
but I would say it would be him or Bowles. I don't think you can have both.
Yeah. So why don't we swap out Bowles and Miners?
Okay.
We'll do that swap. So we got,
and then I'm gonna go with Pat Surtain. I think Pat is a studious, gentleman. He's younger, so he's gonna have, some of today's knowledge. I think that would be
Singleton here.
That'd be good. Oh, you already agreed with my Pat Surtain poll. I like Big Mike. I like Mike Purcell for that. I think he's an older statesman, would be able to help out with some of, or broader knowledge. Not necessarily that he's as old as me, but close. Not close, actually.
Tim brings up a good point too. Kush. I mean, what was the game that
Kahoot? Our Kahoot.
Oh yeah, Kahoot,
and he was slaying it.
So Kahoot, mean, I guess we do have to go with Kush. He's the Kahoot champion. He won a starting position based off Kahoot.
Hey.
At least in my opinion. I know it's not.
Alex Singleton did go to Montana State and he made it out, so that's good for him. But I think I would agree. We got to go with our gaming champion and Kush. I think you had Pat Surtain, you got Justin Simmons. We went with Josie and Quinn Miners. So I think, we got a
lot of offensive linemen, if we're being real.
I mean, it's not dumb. That is the smart group. Got guys from different levels, right?
I'll give Russ a little bit of I'll give him what's that called?
A tip of the hat.
Something like honorary mention. Just because I think quarterbacks are generally pretty cerebral. They have to read the game maybe as much as
my worry would be if, he's probably got to look to his people for an answer, and you can only have one person up there.
Yeah,
that's fair. That's fair. You got to go with the gut.
We should try to do this once every beer segment. Like a party game, something like this. I like that. That was a smart,
ridiculous in the best way. But let's head back into. Actually, we're going to do mailbag. So beer time continues as we drink, but the segment is now.
And now back to your regularly scheduled program.
All right, we got a mailbag today. So let's start. John, do you want to read them? You want me to read them? How do you want to do this?
Let's pull them up. We got Tim in here, so let's go ahead and pull his up right now.
Yeah. So Tim, our friend of the pod, he's been on the pod before, actually. Tim says we currently have like 137 wide receivers on the roster. Aside from Judy, Sutton, Patrick, and Mims, who do you see making the roster? Who wants to tackle that first?
Boy, I mean, for me, this is hard. I just think there's a lot of noise behind, honestly. Let me pull up the roster real quick. Do one of you have the roster pulled up real quick?
Yeah, you want me to just name them?
Share? Yeah,
we got Marquez Callaway, we got Jalen Virgil, Kendall Hinton, Lil Jordan Humphrey, Montreal Washington, Taylor Grimes, Brandon Johnson, Nick Williams. I think that's it.
Nick Williams, honestly, I'm just seeing as a returner, so I'm not really putting him in that kind of in that question. Kendall Hinton, I always still feel like he has that dog in him. He's never out of a fight. Of course, when it comes to something with a new regime like he's done a few times, I feel like he can still earn it. Show he's tough. Show that he can make those catches the other guys can't. So that's my thought.
Also,
that's a guy that we again, it seems like we tend to forget. I'm almost assuming he's going to start on the PUP list, to be honest. I mean, it's just an assumption here being early. I know he's going to get well, but, if he isn't the guy and you want to go with Mims, maybe you start him off on the PUP list just to, again, hold him on your roster and not give him to another team.
I'm, how I feel about Hamler, so I won't get into it. I think Callaway is going to make it. He's a Sean Payton guy. He's a guy that is productive or can be productive, especially if someone goes down. I think he's a shoe-in. I kind of agree with you, John. Kendall Hinton's one I wouldn't count out. He was one that was on the bubble last year that ended up making it, that we weren't sure was going to end up sticking around. So I could see that happening. But with Sean Payton, who knows? He may not be as loyal to Kendall Hinton as the last regime. And so we'll see. I like Jalen Virgil. If it were me, I'd probably hedge Jalen Virgil over the other guys. I just like
over Johnson. I would too.
Yeah. But I think Callaway is probably the next guy in line.
I honestly don't have Washington making this roster. I think he's in an uphill battle, and with some of the rules changed for kicking, I don't know if he necessarily has a role here anymore.
He'll have to show out for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't make sense. A returner who really can't make an impact on offense. I do think Jalen Virgil had some pretty good special teams run. So I think he would probably be a guy that I would lean towards. Cortland ain't playing special teams. Tim Patrick ain't playing special teams. Jerry Jeudy's not going down on a kickoff, nor is Marvin Mims. Maybe he helps out as a returner, but he's not going to be a gunner. And so you really got to think about some of those battles too. Will Callaway play some special teams? Humphrey probably would play some special teams. I know Jalen Virgil, Brandon Johnson would do some special teams. Same with Kendall Hinton. So I think that would be a really good battle. And then I think that the special teams focus will be really important. So I agree with Joey. I don't even count Montrell I don't even count him in the battle. I think right now he's a camp body, which is unfortunate to say.
He was a 5th round pick last year.
I think there was definitely some hope surrounding him.
Yeah. I mean, when you looked at the Florida game, he was a one-man wrecking crew, and there was some hope there in being able to utilize him in some gadget plays to be able to maximize some of his versatility from the backfield, et cetera. I think with the current setup, I just don't know how he cracks it, and especially because he wasn't that great in the return game, it makes it really hard to see how he'll make the roster.
Yeah. I mean, Humphrey has a history with Peyton, so he may have the inside lane. So we'll see too how that works out, especially with just kind of a new regime. You know what I mean? The talent, just being able to kind of suss through talent and difference of opinions could be very apparent when this roster shakes out. So I'll be interested to see for sure. Let's get another question up there. What's up, Graham?
Yeah, we'll get this one up here. We kind of answered it for Cam, but let's just give him a quick, simple synopsis of what we agree.
Okay, I'll start since mine was. I think I made mine pretty clear. I do think it hurts Javante's ceiling. I do think, like I said, I'm not necessarily opposed, but I do think you're kind of giving up a little bit on Javonte by adding someone like Cook. And I'll bring it up because he's in the chat. We had JR on when Javonte got drafted, and I remember him very, very passionately arguing against him splitting carries with Melvin Gordon. I don't know if you remember this, Doc. This would have been before you, John.
Yeah.
Just because of the value that you put in with that draft pick. And I'm kind of now, I think it's taken me too long to figure it out, but I kind of agree with Joey at the end of the day. And maybe this is another opportunity for them to kind of see what Javonte has, assuming he's healthy. That's the caveat, right? But I do think it puts a cap on what you can expect from Javonte, especially this year.
Yeah, in terms of my optimism, it doesn't really change on what I think Javonte Williams is going to be able to do. The only thing it does is, for me, it actually makes me a little bit more optimistic that I'll be able to stay healthy throughout the season. So it just depends on how you want to look at it. And for me, it's optimistic for the Broncos overall, maybe not for Williams in his career path and where he was going to go, at least kind of, trending towards. To add, Doc?
I mean, I don't care about the long. I mean, this team hasn't been that good for a while. It's not they're not doing in a rebuild where you're trying to develop a young player. For as good as Javonte is, I think we all understand that position in you turn and burn right now. And so would it hurt? Maybe, but also maybe it would reduce some of his wear and tear this year. That helps you load up for next year without maybe losing some of the production. It also would help in negotiation if you want to re-sign him to a long-term deal, because he's going to have significantly less carries this year, or potentially could. And so that would help you too with renegotiation or negotiation for a new deal. I think it depends on, if you're playing checkers. If you're playing checkers and Williams is healthy and you want him to get the lion's share so that you maximize that cost, the sunk cost fallacy, sure. However, if you remember that Sean Payton didn't draft him and doesn't care about that second round pick that was used before him, he just wants to play the best. I think you hedge it that way. So we'll see. If he came in at a $4 million clip with some incentives, I think you'd be crazy not to.
For sure. It makes sense to me. And I think you're probably closer to what the truth is around that. But I think as Bronco fans, it's hard for us to give up on a guy that we felt like had such potential.
Yeah.
And I don't think
not that we're giving up.
I think again, I don't care about guys' feelings at this point in time. Like, this team just hasn't been good enough to worry. And sadly for Javonte, he had one good year and a game. Yeah. Right. And so he's not necessarily near and dear to my heart, where it's like, man, I don't like, we got to ride or die with this guy. It's not that necessarily. I think Cortland is a guy that's earned that much more justice. Like, there's guys that have been through the ringer on this team that really deserve to see this go through. Love Javonte. I would love for him to be the reason. If he's if he's healthy and checks out and he's ready to go, I would understand them not bringing in a guy like Dalvin. But I also think with all of the questions in the air and a team that needs to win, I think if you have an opportunity to bring in a 4-time Pro Bowl player and a guy like that, I think you do it.
Yep. Makes sense. Okay, another question. You're gonna.
I just wanted to bring this up with Quan Williams switching to number 8. How good is that gonna look? Do you guys like that on a small guy? No, you gave a look of. I feel like it could look like 0 with the way his pads look almost. Because it goes underneath.
Like it's not really the look I would go for.
Okay, not the look you're going for. All right,
I think really like who's the only number 8 that I think of that was any good was Steve Young, right? I mean, like,
yeah, I think of Gary Kubiak, don't you? Doesn't that come to
Gary
mind?
Kubiak is not a very good player,
but okay, touche. I mean, but he was a great football mind. But let's switch it up to the next question. I might have butchered this because we're limited to what we're allowed to show in terms of limit. But from at Denver Braun 77, Bridget, do you have concerns regarding the place kicker? We have brought in a kicker that has floated a lot, so that's in Fry. He's been around, a few places, hasn't gone on. Are we selling the position short? This position / points seem important.
Sean Payton is for sure. But I would say, would you rather have Brandon McManus or would you rather have Fry and Frank Clark?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Potentially Frank Clark, and some of that money went to Cam Fleming, right? Like,
I mean, you assume Cam. I mean, it would go between a few guys. Cam Fleming, like you said, there was 3 guys that you can put it towards, and there's still room, like we've talked about in the past, that you can restructure a guy if you need to, if you need more room and cap flexibility. So it's not like the Broncos are set in stone with what they have done as well in their cap.
Yep. But I do think it creates some uneasiness for sure for a guy that's kicked as many field goals as I have.
I mean, I just, you look at Chicago. Was it last year or the year before? I can't remember. But they went through how many kickers. They tried out how many kickers. I think it could be a real problem.
Yeah.
It can be a real issue. I think it's 2 years ago.
Yeah. But it's one of those things where the Broncos fans, we are not used to having mixed point after attempts. We're not used to that.
We do. We have had some really long tenured kickers.
Yeah, and I think that's been something, with Prater in the past, something along those lines, where other people have been used to seeing, some bad field goals. It's been, again, we've had a steady decline, but it hasn't been as bad as some cities have had to deal with. And I think that's going to be the big question. Are we going to be able to handle a game where we have 3 missed extra points? I don't think I can personally. I couldn't handle 2. So, I mean, I'm one of those guys where I'd like to bring in competition, and I hate to say it, but I felt like I was a little bit wrong, honestly, when I was thinking about Mayer earlier from the Cowboys and the Saints in the past.
Yeah,
I think that it was a good player to look at.
I don't think we answered the question though. I guess.
Yes, I think
you
that
think it's being sold short the position.
I do.
Again, I think Sean Payton has. I think Sean Payton does not believe a ton in kicking, where I think there is a belief that you can pick up good kickers.
Anyone on the sideline? Yep.
So, I mean, that's how he operated. We talked about that in the last pod. He recycles through kickers. So,
let us know what you think in the comments.
I also think he probably believes that he's going to score a lot more touchdowns. And so maybe that position is less desirable. But it's how he's operated. Is that how I would have operated? I think I would have went for a more proven commodity.
I don't know. They had Lutz for a long time, didn't they?
They did.
Lutz is the first guy that they committed to. So, but again, it was his guy, right? His guy that he found that operated within his system. I think Brandon McManus not only struggled a little bit last year, but he's a different kind of personality. And I don't know that Sean Payton is a guy that wants that from that room.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I think that's a fair take. I think we got one more, John.
Yes, we do. We got one more as we're getting pushed a little bit for time.
I got Ty.
Why don't you go ahead and read this one?
That's fine. Going into mandatory minicamp, what position on the roster are you most confident in, and which one are you most worried about? Doc, kick us off.
What position am I most confident in? I think it depends on how we group it, I guess. I think that the secondary group, I really like it. I think there's a good mix of some youth and some vets.
We're putting the whole secondary together. All right.
That's what I'm saying.
I see how you're working. I see what you're doing.
If not, I would actually say the guard position. I really like Quinn Miners and Ben Powers. So if I were to say like one position,
and they have good depth at guard too.
I really like that. If it were to, but I would say the interior offensive line because
right
there's a hole there. And then maybe if I were to go at another group, I still think I like Frank Clark's addition. I think I worry a little bit about the guys up front still. Yeah. Just if we have enough impact players on the defensive front, I think that's something that we don't know yet.
Yeah, that's fair. John?
Yeah, when it comes to most confident, I think I'm going to go with. I'm struggling with this one today, guys. It is a tough one. I think again, depending on how you word this question, I think I'm most comfortable with the quarterback room in a sense. If it's I know what I'm getting in Russell Wilson. It's not going to be too much variance. I don't think this year compared to last year. I feel comfortable with the quarterback room. It's not going to change. I don't expect anything different.
It feels a little bit like a hot take. I'm not going to lie, because I think a lot of people are worried about Russ's production.
I mean, it's one of those things where I'm not saying his production is going to be a Pro Bowl production. I'm not saying he's going to be, like the defensive backs, but I'm saying it is a comfortable position to be in for your quarterback room. We're not at the bottom of the list, worrying about Will Levis, things like that with the Titans. We have a little bit more stability than worrying about Tannehill and that kind of battle, something along those lines. So I feel comfortable with it. I guess I should say it's more of a feel at ease with it compared to last year.
Okay.
And I again, like you said, Doc, I'm really not comfortable with the interior defensive line. I feel like there's a lot of to be desired. I think I need to see more out of DJ Jones. Excuse me. Need to see more out of DJ Jones, and I need to see what Mike Purcell has left. So I need to see a lot of push from them in order to the edge group maximize their potential.
Yeah. I like those. I think probably I like our safety group the best if we're going into kind of a position specific. I think you know what you're getting with Kareem. Justin Simmons is good. I think Caden Stearns still has upside. PJ Locke's been solid for a long time. I love JL Skinner in the draft. That hasn't changed. So I love the bodies that they have there. I think that they can be productive in a good group altogether. I do worry about our cornerbacks a little bit, and just from a depth standpoint, I like our starters, but if one of those guys goes down, I don't know that I feel good about that, and I think we still need to see what Demario Mathis brings to the table as a true number 2. I like him. I like his game. I think he can hold up, but if he doesn't, then we're in trouble and we've got to do something, because I don't think necessarily the person is on that roster to fill that spot. So that's probably where I would go with that. We want to do this last question down here in the chat
from our boy Orange Crush. Let's pull it
up. Any thoughts on SP Sean Payton calling Dulcich his Joker like he had in Sproles or Kamara? Are we going to see Dulcich in the Wildcat?
I think what the Joker role is it's really a variety of being able to move inside outside. You can line him up at H-back and have him do some things out of the backfield. So really it's a mismatch guy. And so I think that he'll do that. Will they run the Wildcat with him? No, probably not. Maybe. I don't know. I've never seen him throw.
One or twice, you never know.
But I think they'll use them in a lot of variety. And I think Sean Payton talked about it a little bit after, in the sense that he is a guy that does some really good stuff. He said his pass route tree will be extensive. So he's going to run a lot of different routes. And I think that will be really visible. And not only the routes that he's running, but how he aligns, really.
I mean, he's a wide receiver. I mean, like, he's a tight end, but he kind of fits.
He's a willing blocker, and that's the most important thing.
That's not why he's in the roster.
But he's got wide receiver.
When they're bringing in other guys, some people were like, I think it's a worry for maybe they don't like Dulcich. Maybe I think what they're doing is they're bringing in a whole bunch of other type of players, so that they are ready to go. Whether it's Manhurts, whether it's Troutman, whether it's Hudson, etc., Atkins, even those are big guys that are built for getting their nose dirty, and then they're gonna leave training camp with the best one or two of those guys, and then you have Dulcich, and then you got that'll be kind of the plan, is that they're gonna leave with a couple guys that they feel can go get dirty. I think it doesn't speak well for Albert O. I think that's a guy who is fast and is good at high point, but he's not really a really great route runner, and not really.
He's not willing blocker at this point.
I don't know if he's willing, but I definitely know he's not effective.
Yeah, I mean, I guess he could be putting in all the effort, but I'm not seeing the production or anything of that on the field.
Yeah, Dulcich definitely seems to be more willing blocker, and like more willing than like a guy like Gesicki, who I think is seen as a kind of a wide receiver at the tight end position too. So not to sell him short, I don't want to sell him short for sure. Yeah. I think that's a wrap for today, though.
Yeah.
Thanks everyone for your questions, for your interactions. We love it, man. We eat it up. So hit us up on social medias if you want to talk to us between pods. If you have questions, some beer recommendations, we're always down for that. But otherwise, we're going to get out of here. So we appreciate you. Be kind to one another. Be safe out there, and go Broncos.
Go Broncos.
Go Broncos.
And
Nuggets.
Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, 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 go. Hustle hard, hustle